From sunny Southern California, we bring you Meet Bridget, a podcast for building confident communication and female badassery. We spotlight women who have bridged the gaps in their lives by building strong relationships and speaking their teenage dreams into reality.
Bring it on, baby!
What we've got here is failure to communicate.
Welcome back to Meet Bridget Season 5. I'm Asha Gabriel, and I co-host this show alongside my best friend,
Kashia Rosenberg.
So for those of you who are new here, welcome. This is episode 150.
So wild.
Wild. If you don't know what this show is about, we are a giant library of career and life path options for young women to relate to. And we do that by sharing the honest and unfiltered teenage stories of a diverse array of successful women.
We believe that confidence starts with self-trust and grows through authentic community, which is why we've worked so hard to build an incredible community. We tap back into our formative years, and that's how we make this Meet Bridget community a place where women of all ages and stages can connect on common ground. We were all teenagers and young adults trying to figure things out. I feel like I'm still figuring things out. And it's really made this not just a labor of love, but like a living, breathing resource and community of just amazing women with a similar interest in learning from one another.
Yes, I am I'm so happy to be here today because getting to 150 episodes, we chatted on the phone the other day and I'm like, we're a legit ass podcast.
Yeah.
Like to get this far, I mean, I think doing 150 of kind of anything takes just that like steady repetition. It's a habit at this point. Like it means that we have created this as like a habit. It's a part of our routine, our lifestyle. So I feel like today we really wanted to start by chatting about like what is it that enables us to create habits, to stick to something and see it blossom into, you know, better than we even imagined it could be. So we have a few ideas for just some things to talk about today, but in general, we just wanted to welcome our audience to this episode, our closer of season 5. We're obviously already coming back for season 6. We have so many good guests lined up and so many great stories to share, but this is a thank you episode for everybody that's been here and is joining us even now.
Yeah, thanks for sticking with us, everyone. I mean, welcome to those of you who are new to listening to our podcast, but it really I feel like we've come so far. 150 is wild. I think it's proof of concept of commitment and that whole confidence and communication virtue cycle that we are so deeply invested in and have spent so much time building our like ethos around. And I'm excited to just dig into it, how our values have really made this possible and what we've learned this season. And, maybe we'll tease a little bit of what's to come.
Yeah. So some of you might have seen recently we had this awesome event at actually one of our family's restaurants, the Country Club. It was a fall social club that we had and invited a bunch of influencers and impactful people in the community to come just celebrate the podcast. And we did it in cooperation with Camp Chaos, another local podcast. And it was fun because, people were asking, people that were new to our community that came to the event were asking about how do we choose people for the podcast? What is our like selection criteria? And what's so cool is I've realized that it's like I feel like we don't actually like check boxes or like, we don't have a written criteria, but I think generally like we see someone as successful, like our criteria is that it's a successful woman. Success for us means that they're in their lane, that they're clearly doing something that lights them up and that they're passionate about. But then also we're looking for people that are able to be open with their teen experience. And I think something I realized this season that maybe I hadn't like verbalized was no woman in our community is in competition with other women.
Yeah.
And that really kind of I it seems like, oh yeah, nobody should be, but I really like when I look around in our community events specifically, there's such like this incredible feeling of being around, being in a room of women where you're like, you know that if you left the room, the people in that room would be speaking highly of you. You
Yeah.
don't it's really electric. So I feel like that has been one thing that we've stuck to and has created a really unique flavor for
I
this
think that
community.
I think you're so right. I think the energy has been really electric. And I love that you brought that up because I remember Alexa Felice, who was in one of our earlier seasons, was able to make it. She actually moved back locally, and so she was able to make it to our event. And she is, we'll link her episode in the show notes so you can go back and listen to it. But she's somebody who started her own nonprofit, and it's all about everybody being deserving of love, every body being deserving of love. And she made a point of telling us that she's been to so many different events, especially influencer events, where it feels very
Hmm.
sterile or stiff or poised or staged, even. And walking into the room that we had curated really felt so much more organic and welcoming and community based. And I think that was so refreshing to hear, but also, um, I really took it to heart because even though we know what we're doing and we love what we're doing and we love sharing these stories, to hear it verbalized from somebody else so eloquently made me feel like, yeah, we're really, setting ourselves up with the right people. And I say that meaning like we're reaching out and building community based on values that align so deeply with ours, which is, like you said, not to be in competition. And each one of these women, I think, really has mastered the art of being open to meeting new people, being open to new experiences, to being flexible with their
Hmm.
thought, and just being curious. I think we're
Yeah.
curious kind of gals. And
Yeah.
I think
To a fault.
somehow we've also attracted that energy here. And
Yeah.
I'm really proud of that.
I think, going back to like Meet Bridget's original roots, literally like back to the reason for even calling it Meet
Mhm.
Bridget was because the name Bridget has the word bridge in it. It's about this sense of like real lateral connections, right? Like not a ladder, but like a bridge where you can connect to other women. And I even just watching women connect at the event and seeing them following up with each other or collaborating on things, it has always been a dream of ours to have someone say, like, oh, we met because we were both on the Meet Bridget podcast, or we met at a Meet Bridget event, or we both even listened to the Meet Bridget podcast and we loved one of these episodes, or someone saying, I heard this episode and now I'm connected to that career path because I was inspired and related to that woman. All of these like connections, I feel like are really materializing. And that is so fun and just makes us feel like this whole community is on fire and really doing work.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we're just happy to be kind of
Developing
putting
that,
it together.
owning that,
Yeah.
putting it out into the universe.
Yes.
What's something you feel like this season you've really learned about yourself, either about your values or like yourself as a friend or a business partner or a person?
Something that comes immediately to mind, I was having a conversation with my friend Michelle, who is an excellent realtor. And some of you might know that I've like dabbled, I've dabbled in a lot of things, but in real estate. And we were kind of talking about, I'm, s- I've realized like in sales, what happens is like you have leads, right? And then you'll put a lot of work into one and it might
Mhm,
work, but you'll put a lot of work into a bunch of others and they'll just evaporate,
mhm,
and like you'll see kind of these dead ends. And in the beginning of my real estate career, I've been like, okay, like that really devastates me. Like I have a hard time
mhm,
with that. Does that mean I'm not going to be good at this? But then I was also talking about the podcast later and explaining how I think one of the hardest parts of running a podcast, I mean, a lot of the parts are hard, but is just scheduling people and getting the interviews
Hmm.
done in a way that makes sense. And like the prep is no problem because we could literally, we're so curious, we could interview kind of anybody and have lots to talk about. But like just getting the interviews on the books with everybody's busy schedules, specifically because we tend to interview people that have a lot going on.
Hmm.
Um, and then I was explaining that to her, and she's like, "That's kind of the same thing, like
Hmm.
having those dead ends, and then doesn't bother me anymore." I'm like, well, it's okay. Like that happens because we have, five other people in the pipeline. Like we'll just do this interview or this episode. And because we've had so many reps in
Hmm.
making these things happen now, it doesn't bother me. And it made me kind of sit and think, and it's like, okay, there's just such a value in reps. And what I mean by that is not like perfect execution of every single one in a way that is like just as planned,
Hmm.
but rather just like doing it. And even if it's not perfect, just showing up every single time on schedule, just showing up.
Yeah.
And I think this season, I've really seen the value in that and being on a plan, especially having an accountability partner,
Hmm.
um, that you do kind of get numb to the misfires and the dead end routes and that kind of thing. It's like
Hmm.
if you have enough of that repetition under your belt, you do get tough for that kind of thing. It was an interesting conversation. What about you?
Yeah, I like that a lot, Ashi. I think I've seen that in you too. I think by the way, am I your accountability partner?
Yes.
Oh, you too.
Yes.
I was like, I should. That's a great
A whole
idea.
host of other things. But really you are, because it's like
No, it's so true. It.
we have this like unwritten contract with each other,
Hmm.
and I think that just our commitment to each other and showing up with each other and giving each other the best of ourselves, I think really has set the tone for the other female connections that happen within this community. And
Yeah,
I'm
I
really
totally
proud of
agree.
that.
I kind of have to parlay off of that too in terms of something I've learned about myself. And I think this is across the board as a friend and a business partner and a person. I think I've always been somebody who being of like it, I think it's just my love language too, is like being of service is my love language.
Yeah.
Um, Sometimes you don't always know the right thing to say or the right gift to give, but just to like offer yourself up and be like, I'm here. not, not on the
But I'm
cross, but
here.
like, I'm
Well, honestly,
here.
sometimes just showing up,
Yeah.
right? Like, even if you don't know what you're there to give, just like
Yeah.
showing up and letting the actual service be decided
Hmm.
later,
Hmm.
like whatever it is, I think it takes a lot of bravery.
Yeah, and I think the one thing that I haven't given myself credit for in the past that I've started to, and you're a huge part of that, and this podcast is a huge part of that, and the work that we do and the women we've met, is just understanding and believing that I am a value add, and it
Mhm.
sounds so simple and trite, but it it's a big thing. Like I think whenever you're working really hard at something, there's a certain level of imposter syndrome, or can I do it? Can I be good enough at it? But that repetition, like you said, of just having an accountability partner, doing the reps, showing up, and it doesn't have to be perfect. At the end of the day, I get to look back at the thread. I get to look back at all 150 episodes and say, we did that together. You did that. I did that. We both showed up. We both put in the work, and we made something really beautiful and very cool, and something that I am always so happily surprised and honored and humbled to hear that people gain anything from. It could be the smallest thing, like, oh, this one anecdote really affected me deeply and resonated with me, or I felt so alone as a teen, and hearing so and so's story, or this person talk about how they were alone as a teen and they had to figure things out on their own. um it really feels great, and it just, I'm proud of us for doing that. So I think, yeah, the repetitions, and also accepting that like the general you, the audience, has so much to add to any room you walk into. That's great.
I think too, it's been interesting, like, because we've started this,
Hmm.
over 5 years ago now, the podcast part of it at least. And it's interesting to kind of be sitting in this and and also realizing it's a very saturated space, right? There's
Mhm.
so many other things people could be listening to. Um, but I also think I've like really embraced the fact that there's something just really sincere about our mission. And I feel like sometimes I feel like that energy is a little infantile or something. Like it feels kind of naive. You know what I mean? We're like, oh, we could be like really trying to do something that'll go viral or like
Yeah.
just be just funny or say like stuff that's just crass or this or that just to like get attention and views and stuff. And I think that like while we do have some like silly episodes and obviously like our dynamic together is just what it is and it
Yeah.
does get a little kooky sometimes, but like at the heart of it is like we really just care a lot, really a lot,
Yeah.
about sharing the truth of the female experience,
Mhm.
at all those like sticky, uncomfortable stages and shedding light on them and having people verbalize them. And I think that um, the most gratifying thing is we've had several guests now where they do their interview and we put it out in the world. And it's funny, a lot of the ones that love their episodes the most are usually the ones that will like text me after and be like, I don't know. I think I was too much, huh?
Yeah.
They're like, you can edit it, or just we could maybe redo it, And I'm
Mhm.
like, just wait and see. It was really amazing. And
Yeah.
then that guest will listen to the episode and be like, oh my God, I love this. And it's such it feels so good to have someone love something where they just bared their soul and all their
Mhm.
hardest, deepest, scariest moments to the world and have them still love that. And I think that that is just an experience that is very addicting.
Mhm.
But yeah, it just has that real, I don't know what the word is for it other than just like sincerity.
Yeah, it is. It's completely authentic. I also think we've tried really hard, but in a very organic way, to tout vulnerability and to give a safe space to people to be completely vulnerable and open as much as they want to be without leaning too far, like you said, into that viral space. Because it's really easy these
Yes.
days for people to be like, let me tell you about all of my trauma. And you're like, well,
Yeah.
I never want to be the person to say, like, maybe that's not trauma. Like, maybe like not getting like your green tea at the place that you want is like not really like a trauma, and we don't have those types of conversations here. But I really do love how intentional we've been and how on board all of our guests have been about just the honesty and their vulnerability and
Hmm.
being able to share these stories without seeking attention necessarily for them,
Yeah.
but sharing them in a way that it's really speaking to literally the one person who needs to hear it. Like, it's
Hmm.
almost like we're sharing these stories specifically for our teen selves. And I think that is
Yeah.
what we're doing. Like, whenever I speak to a really incredible woman, which is all the women that we've interviewed, one of the things that I love so much is that there is something in each of their stories that resonates so deeply with the
Yeah.
version of me that needed that love or that affirmation or that acknowledgement as a teen or a young adult. And so that's very, very genuine. And I think I another thing again that I'm super proud of and humbled by, and I think is really set us apart in this space where a lot of people like to share anything and everything, but sometimes not for the right reasons, if that makes sense.
Yeah, well, and I also think that like as a host, it's such a fine line to get people to really fully open up,
Hmm.
not just like sugarcoat, like, I'm going to say, what would you say to inspire teens? Like,
Yeah.
never give up. Like, we try to steer away. I mean, we have a little bit of that rawness, but
Yeah.
like, we try to steer away from that, like, kind of cliche girl power
Yeah.
language and really just let the stories and the honesty be the thing that's inspiring. But as a host, there's also this like fine line between getting people to lay their souls bare just for like a voyeuristic listener to kind
Hmm.
of just be like just gawk at like a circus
Yeah.
animal versus like really like holding like creating a safe space for someone to share something for the audience that we're intending to hear it, you know? And I
Yeah.
think it does change the delivery. I think it changes how the guest feels about the
Mhm.
episode later. I think that like I really feel so responsible
Mhm.
for taking care of these stories and delivering them in a way that is um, just very human rather than giving people something to
Exploitative.
gawk at or feel
Yeah.
better about themselves because other
Mhm.
people have struggled. That like I really just don't we don't cater to that listener, and that's been I think that's been a skill that we've really honed without
Yeah.
necessarily.
I would say that's a deep value that we have as like a pair of co-hosts and as a podcast team is just having so much reverence for everybody's experiences. And
Hmm.
like you said, and you've said this so beautifully in the past, just feeling a sense of responsibility for sharing the story in a way that's respectful and
Yeah,
not voyeuristic and not exploitative and not, like you said, not because we're trying to put something out there so somebody can be like, oh God, I feel better about myself because they had it so much worse than me,
yeah,
or
yeah,
any version of that. I think the whole purpose is to really share these stories in a way that, again, just fosters community and allows people to not feel so alone. It
yeah.
should feel
That
like
that co-
meeting
that
a
like
friend.
that vulnerability is actually like the reason that person comes across as so strong and confident,
Mhm.
you know,
Mhm.
rather than being like, oh, pity me because I went through this and this. It's like, oh, look how brave this woman is
Yeah.
to, you know, be who she is, but also come on and lay it all out there. I think, yeah, I love that quality, and I've loved building that skill. I think even what I've noticed too is outside the podcast, even just like hearing about, I feel like whenever I hear about a kid, especially, but really anyone that was like is being portrayed as bad,
Mhm.
I think because I've heard so many stories of women that have been through all sorts of things and then also emerged to become these incredible women. I have like s- such little judgment for young people,
Mhm.
even the ones that are like struggling or being perceived as bad or behaving badly.
Mhm.
It's, I think that that's been an unexpected byproduct of just hearing so many transformative stories.
Totally. I mean, I can just, even you saying that, I mean, I think of like Sam Lopez's interview or Jessica Ruby's interview recently where they said, we were deemed like the bad kids or the naughty kids,
Yeah,
or they
Boney Walsh too.
yeah, leaned into substance abuse, or Lisa Hubbard.
Yeah, oh my gosh, yeah.
These are women that literally walk through fire. And personally, like I had known Sam in high school, I would have had no idea what was going on in the background.
Yeah.
And so, being able to tap back into those stages of our lives where things were the most difficult, and being able to see the thread of like, okay, this was the coping mechanism at the time and this is how I overcame it. It really does bring such a massive sense of empathy and, just being able to walk a mile for a minute in somebody else's shoes and then look at everyone else that's, walking by on the street and being like, oh, they have a story too.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, or
I have less road
we were
rage.
on bikes. We were on bikes today with my family, right? And
Yeah.
Andrew had Nina in the front and I had Ian on the back, you know, which is like I'm a little more careful and scared when I'm riding
Yeah.
with a bike with my kid on it.
Yeah.
And we were like driving and then a car Andrew gets through. We're kind of like between the cars and the parked
Hmm.
cars. Andrew goes through and then a car literally cuts right in front of me to like because they were going to park where someone was like, moving
Yeah.
to get out, and I had to like stop and then like back up and like go around onto the street to like
Hmm.
get around them. It was a little scary, and Andrew was way ahead, and I was like, oh sorry, this person like kind of just came right in front of us. He's like, I know. Do you want me to go say something to them? And I was like, no, you know. And I think that it's just like even like you were saying about like a road rage or whatever. I'm like, I just maybe they're having a hard day, you
Yeah.
know, or like just not paying attention for whatever reason. Like it's fine. We ended up fine. I feel like I just don't have as much yeah, that like anger that can kind of come from judging people's
Yeah.
behaviors for any reason.
Yeah,
We're
totally.
becoming little Buddhas. That's
Yes.
our journey. And I'm like
Totally.
I'm entering my luteal phase too, so it's like
It's
I'm
just
gonna
all
look like
love
a little
right
Buddha
now.
too.
It's all love. Yeah.
Love and then like
Ask
dying
me
in 3 days, so
ask
I'll
me
see
the
you there.
same question in a week. Let's see. Be like
And I'll just be
be like a
crying.
little devil on my shoulder, like, you want to come at me?
Like when I threw my latte at them and moved on. No, it's not all the time. But
But then that's
I do
another
think,
thing is like allowing for that, allowing for those little periods of naughtiness and just knowing, like with our kids, it's like we need those outlets sometimes. It doesn't make you a bad person. Um,
no.
Obviously the goal is to like be good, do good, put good out into the world, foster community, be the great podcast host we are. But life is funny and fickle and crazy and we have to be a little silly and a little naughty and a little gremlin-y sometimes, and that's okay too.
Well, and I think it makes you also like so conscious of the fact like we're talking about the teen years and such
Mhm.
focus, but it makes me also, especially having young kids, I really realize I'm like, gosh, there's such a little girl still very alive and active in
Yeah.
me all the time, and that like shines through in good ways when I'm working on something I'm really like passionate about and like get that like childlike kind of energy about, but it's
Yeah.
also there when I'm like at my worst, or
Yeah.
tired or, I'll like yell at my kids or something and I'll be like, who was that? I'm like, oh, that was like, a little kid that just felt like
Overwhelmed.
overstimulated, you know?
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I feel like all this like focus on these funny years, it just makes you really, I think, more self-aware, but also like aware of how, deep people are.
Mhm. Mhm.
We wanted to talk a little bit too about, um, because I think circling back to like the ability to get like 150 episodes done, right?
Mhm.
And the behaviors, like our regular behaviors, the things that we're able to create as routine only really happen consistently when they come out of a value,
Mhm.
right? Unless it's like something totally unintentional and a bad habit, but but good, like quality habits, I think come out of aligning your behavior with your values. So I'd love to ask you what you think kind of your core values, if you could name like 3 to 5 of them in life,
Mhm.
what they might be, and if the podcast aligns with any of them.
Oh, I absolutely think so. I don't think we'd be here if either of us didn't believe so deeply in one another and in our mission and in what we do. I think for both of us, it's very, very difficult to be in a space where we're not spiritually aligned.
Mhm.
And so, I mean, that's really just it. I think for me, some values that are of the utmost important: integrity. I think that encompasses, accountability to you, accountability to ourselves, to our mission. Um, you know, I was taught as a really young kid that if you see something, say something. If you say you're going to do something, you do that thing. And
Mhm.
so that's so deeply ingrained in me. And I think it's really a core tenet of everything I do in my life. So, if I'm trying to be of service to other people and I'm telling somebody that, I'm here to share these stories, I'm here to give you a safe space, then integrity drives all of that. And
Yeah.
that completely aligns with what we do. I also think just loving unconditionally. And, that's not always a perfect practice, but I'm not just talking about romantic love or like even friendship love, but just having love and reverence for every human being and every living thing, which can be really hard when somebody has values that don't align with yours.
Mhm.
And I mean that just in the most general, like in life. There are definitely people who, I hear or I see or are like in the ether where, things they do or see might really, really bother me, but I have to, or I believe that something that's really important for me to do to put into practice is to say, like, there are situations and things that shape that human being into who they are and why they think the way that they do, and it might not align with me, doesn't necessarily make them an evil person. Maybe it doesn't mean that we need to share the same spaces all the time.
Yeah.
But I think just having that allows me to free up any space in my brain where I'm like hyper fixated on not liking a situation or not liking a person or having something that somebody else said like really affect me. Um, and then just honesty, I try and stay honest with myself and with other people. And that's definitely been a practice that's gotten stronger as an adult that I get to share with our community, that I've learned more through our community, that you can be honest in a way that's kind and filled with integrity and filled with love. And that's what drives, like, proper boundary setting. It's what creates space for myself. Probably my son has helped with that a lot too, is just being
Yeah.
honest about, like, do I have the bandwidth for this? Do I have the space? Do I want to do this? Does it align? So, I mean, those are three that I can think of off the top of my head. What about you?
I would definitely agree that those are like in the experience of being your business partner and sister and friend. I think those things all like they very much come across by the way that you do the things you do.
Thank you, Ashi. It means a lot to me.
Yeah. I mean, I think a big, gosh, values. I mean, I really place a value on having respectful relationships.
Mm,
Obviously, with like the people I love, I think that I've tried to put a lot of work into communication in a way
mm,
that's just deeply respectful. Especially with like my close ones, whether it's, my husband or my family or you or even my children. Like even when I am upset or disagree with something, I feel like I've gotten a lot better at, if I need a moment to find my words in order to make them respectful of the person. Um, I do that now, and I really have like a value for, I think that respect is the foundation of all connections, of all like
mhm,
self-respect. Obviously, we talk about that like self-trust, which I think is really tied to, you know, I think that self-trust creates self-respect,
mhm,
right? Knowing that
mhm,
you can um, make commitments and then follow through on them, but then also just um, giving others respect so that love or friendship or even just business partnership or whatever it is can be built on that. So I think like really speaking in a way that makes people feel respected. Um, I really have this intense curiosity. It's just about like everything, but I think that one of my values has really been like labeling what I'm curious about
mhm,
and fearlessly pursuing it at this point. A lot of it is like travel. I just want to see as much of the world as I can and as many cultures, and I want to see how different people live.
mm,
I think that just makes me so fascinated by like the human condition. It's just to see that people are living differently than me.
mhm,
Um, so I feel like that's another one. Um, yeah, just like that, just like satisfying that curiosity, but then also just being kind of um unafraid to like say my truth, like the things I care about, or if I've experienced something hard or embarrassing,
mhm.
or like, just a lot of things I feel like um I talk about uncomfortable things pretty openly with the people I'm around. And I take pride in that, hopefully being kind of refreshing
Yeah,
and helpful, and kind of wearing myself on my sleeve.
I totally see all of those things, all of them. And I think what I admire so deeply about you, Ashi, is like I've been in the room. We're at this point we're family, right? So I've been in rooms where, not the greatest situations are going on, or like the kids are having tough days. And I so admire your ability to just pause and articulate yourself so kindly. Like even in the most like benign situations, like if, you know, toddlers are toddlers, right? But like, there are so many instances where I've just heard you respond so gently and so kindly, and I really take it to heart because one, being a mom is the greatest joy and the greatest learning experience of life, I think. Um, just being responsible for another human's growth and trajectory.
Yeah.
But just to hear the way that you do it, it always one makes me so proud to be your friend, but also inspires me to do the same thing better or say things nicer or kinder or more articulately. Um, so I can totally see all of those things. And of course, your curiosity is like one of my favorite things about you. And I think no one could deny it. And I think it's also part of the reason you're such an effective communicator because you could literally talk to anyone. I think it's so fun having conversations with you because you know how to keep it going. And it comes from a really organic and genuine place of you just being like, well, I need to know more.
Just like, is it annoying? Is it curious? Don't care. Like,
Tell
tell
me
me no,
more.
tell me you hate me, and I'm gonna say like, tell me why. I'm really curious about that. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, well, it's funny because it's like, you find your values, right? I think
Hmm.
especially as like women in their 30s and onward, like you start getting really, those things become really clear, you know? Um, but then it's interesting to go back and be like, okay, like where did those values maybe start? I think we spend a lot of our podcast episodes talking about, we start with talking about the person's career and what they're doing their day to day, what kind of person they are today. And then we like to find like, okay, where did that come from? So I'd love to ask you, out of the values that you stated, where do you think, like, if you could state maybe like early family moments or childhood things, where do you think that those like core values might have come from?
Um, yeah, I'm kind of like laughing at myself because when I talk about integrity, that specific word, I will never forget. So my godparents, it's my mom's older sister and her husband, my uncle Paco, who is from Chihuahua, Mexico, and so I am an honorary Mexican. But we're all very, very close. And I remember he this is a small aside, but Uncle Paco is like such a cool person because he literally lived out and is living out the American dream. He immigrated here. He started out not knowing a word of English. He got his citizenship. He became a firefighter. He's been a firefighter in San Francisco for several decades, and he's just an incredible human being. Um, he also is very good at like real life Tetris, like packing cars and stuff. But I remember when we were little kids, I'd spend a lot of time with my aunts and uncles, and as a third culture kid, like you don't ever waste food. But you also, like, I remember the same day that he was teaching us that lesson, he was like, also, you do everything with integrity. And he's like, do you know what integrity means? And I think I was like 4 or 5, and I was like, I have no clue.
Yeah.
But he was like, integrity means literally if you say you are going to do something, you rise to that occasion and you do it, and he was giving us examples, but it's literally stuck with me my entire life. And it affected me so deeply, maybe because I was so young and it felt like a very important conversation at the time. Um, but that's how he worded it. And it was a big part of, how we as like 6 or 7 little cousins who were like all around the same age were interacting with each other and like learning how to be courteous to one another and play nicely and be kind to one another. So it's a very specific memory for me, like where I heard that first word and why
Yeah.
why it's been so deeply ingrained. But then it's been something I've put into practice my entire life, and I think it's been reiterated by my family members and by all of the women and men that raised me and my mom and dad as well. Um, and same thing with honesty. Growing up, my dad's 30, almost 35 years clean and sober off drugs and alcohol. And there are some people that will really like that growing up with a sober alcoholic or sober drug addict will really resonate with, because people who grow up in 12-step programs like have a very structured way of thinking about addictions and if they go through the whole program. And one of the steps talks about being honest with yourself and being honest with others and taking like a full accounting of things you may have done wrong to yourself or to others. And so my dad, when we were growing up, or when I was a teenager and young, or preteen teenager, I'd go with him to some of these meetings, and he would talk to me about what he was going through and the things that they would talk about in the meetings, and talk about how part of staying accountable and true to yourself to make it one day at a time was being really, really honest, and that you're only as sick as like the secrets you keep. And that meant that, like, telling yourself lies or keeping secrets from yourself or from others eventually would eat away at you. And so the best
Hmm.
way to live a clean life in all sense of the word was to just really be as honest as you could. And that translated into like, if I was like doing something that I shouldn't have been doing, like not lying about it too. But that lesson, stemmed from some of those situations, and love, just because I think life is really hard. And we go through very difficult seasons, some worse than others. And, we've talked about different things we've gone through, you with your cancer diagnosis, and me with pregnancy loss, and everything in between, taking care of our parents and our kids, and, just being women going through the motions. I think we have to love ourselves and love the people in our lives unconditionally, and that's definitely reinforced by all of the women that we talk to and learning all of their stories.
I love that. I love that.
I love I love it too.
I
Yeah.
love that. Ah,
What
let's
about
see.
you, Ashi? Like, where do you feel like your curiosity stems from? I think it's innate, but like, do you remember
Um,
like your earliest instances of curiosity, and just, is this like a
yeah,
middle?
actually. So as a kid, I think that it's always fun to share with people that I was intensely shy when I was
Mhm.
young, very quiet. I'm a middle child, so often I felt like in like our family conversations, I had a really hard time getting a word in. So I had a lot of just like a private world for a
Mhm.
long time as a child, and I found books. Like I
Yes.
loved to read as a child. I would read everywhere, anywhere. Like my sister was part of like an AAU basketball team, and we'd like travel for her tournaments, and I'd literally be in the bleachers just reading. I just loved it. And I feel like books for me really just opened up my imagination. And I think when you have a really incredibly active imagination, it just makes you curious about people's stories and potential stories and backstories and
Yeah.
character development and all these things that are very literary, but they're also just very life-y,
Mhm.
like we all have character development and story arcs, and complexities and moments of conflict and all of these things. So I feel like my curiosity honestly comes from a love of reading.
Yeah.
If I could really date it back to anything, that I still very much have in Kindle. And every time I feel like I lean into a book that I really love, I feel like a child. I'm like, I love reading.
Yes.
I literally, in my brain, like I'll finish a book and I'm like, I love reading in my head. And I'm like, this is so nerdy. But also, I think that like the byproduct of just listening to other people's stories and letting my mind kind of escape into new places is just this really alive and intense curiosity. What were my other ones? I think regarding like the respectful communication
Mhm.
thing, I think that comes from being a middle child. I think that have I took it was for a long time. I feel like even as a kid, you hear people talk about like, oh, middle child, this she has middle child syndrome,
Mhm. But like,
and
what
you
is
hear
it?
it, and as a kid, you can tell by people's tone that like, is that even if
It's
it's not
not
even
a good
talking
thing.
about you, just
Yeah.
generally people talk about middle children in the world, and you're like, oh, that's bad, like so we're like the black sheep
Yeah.
or forgotten or attention seeking or this and that. But I've really leaned into that quality of like being in the middle and being very comfortable with
Mhm.
that. To like, for example, I think I saw something on Instagram the other day that like I had a judgy thought about.
Mhm.
There was some, I don't know. You know what it was actually was there was this influencer that just had a baby, and she posted this picture of herself like in a crop top holding the newborn and her, and I was like, this looks like an edited
Yeah.
image, like really like had that real,
Mhm.
and in my mind I was like, I want to say something about that. That's just like not productive. Like, what is the point of this image? And then in the other part of my mind, I was like, but why? You know, why? There's no reason for me to go down that
Mhm.
route. It doesn't like uplift another woman if for whatever, maybe it's not edited and go for her,
Yeah.
maybe it is. And maybe she edited it because she's feeling insecure. Like, who
Mhm.
knows? Or feels the pressure to show that she's recovered like that. And I just kind of let it go. And I feel like in a lot of settings, I'm able to kind of like, even if I'm tempted by siding with one judgment or one side or one political view or whatever,
Mhm.
I think I'm able to, and I'm also much more interested in like the middle. Like, okay, there's obviously intense difference of opinion on this topic. Why? I want to know why. Like why do people think so differently, and why are they not able to kind of communicate over this thing? Like, why is that so difficult? And um, I used to kind of get down on myself for not being a person that really aligns with a lot of like polar opinions and
Mhm.
parties and groups and stuff, that I really kind of float a lot in the middle. And now I just kind of think that I think that's a cool strength that kind of came from being a middle child.
Yeah, I think you have
And I
like
think that like respectful communication enables you to kind of be in the middle and talk to anybody, because it's like, I don't know your life,
yeah.
and it's not really my business either, but like we can be human and respect each
Mhm.
other and have conversations and keep things moving in the middle versus just like,
Yeah.
I look at the world sometimes. It's like,
That's the part
dude,
where you're like, "Tell me more. Tell me more."
yeah,
That
like I want to
insatiable
understand, like, where
thirst
did
for
that
like,
come from?
"Mhm. Mhm."
Yeah. And then I forgot what was my other quality. I don't remember.
I have to think about it. There was respectfulness, and
And curiosity.
the respectfulness probably into like your like love. Oh, communication. Just communication as being like a very
Yeah, just in general.
strong part of, you know, what you do, that respect and then respectful communication and being very articulate. Mm. Not being
Maybe also just from
not
like
being
having a
afraid
long
to.
time where I didn't feel heard. But then like, okay, if I finally do have a platform or something, like I really want to take a moment, because I have intense
Yeah.
emotions, like especially like gut emotions. Like I know that if I gave a verbal like throw up of every thought that goes through my mind when I'm about to like
Hmm.
when I'm feeling something, it would not end me in good places. Like, and I know that because of experience, So now I know to be like, all right, there's a lot going on. Like, let's sit, give it a minute, come back and be a big girl, and
Just
find the
think about
words.
it for a little bit.
Yeah.
It's a really good
But yeah,
skill for
that's
anyone to have, though, because I think I can so relate to that, where you just have like a gut, like you're like, ugh. And I'm like, okay, well, what is the outcome of it going to be if I say it in this way? And then you like tone it
yeah.
down by like 300%, and then it comes off so much nicer.
Or you could even like it helps you like just that pause
Yeah,
helps you realize like,
no,
whoa,
for sure.
clearly this thing set me off,
Hmm. And
and
why?
it seems like it's this
Yeah.
thing, but like what's the real reason,
Hmm.
or what is the thing underlying this? And what could I say to actually affect that thing versus this one setting or scenario or emotional response? Um, yeah, I really like that space and working on it and trying to get good at it.
Yeah, I can totally see how. I mean, I love your siblings. I obviously don't know what it's like to be a middle child. And I don't even really think that I truly understand what, like, when somebody says, "Oh, that person has middle child syndrome," like, I don't really know what that means. Like, does it mean that like middle children are supposed to be like pick me's because like you
Yes, I think that's a great
like
comparison.
okay,
We're very pick
but
me.
like, I don't actually think that that's true, because like my sister is very much, I mean, she's the middle child, you're the middle child, but the biggest similarity that I see between the two of you, which is actually the opposite of pick me, is you guys just kind of like keep your head down and stay in your lane. And like, if anything, I would say that like it's almost to a point where you're like, don't notice until like I'm ready to present it, because I'm doing it in my own way, no matter what you say. Like,
That's for real. I think that That's another thing that kind of came. I feel like I had a lot of I will say as a middle child, especially like a second daughter or a second
Mhm,
of the same sex,
mhm,
that it I felt this urge to make sure people knew how I was different from my older sibling.
mm,
Um, and when someone, especially I still have this energy if someone says like I can't do something or they say like that would be bad for you to
yeah.
do. A, I'm more interested in it. But B, I have this incentive to show people that like, no,
Yeah.
if I do it my way and with my spin and my integrity, I can actually make that a good thing. And I feel like that like the earliest big choice I made was like modeling when my parents were
Mm.
like, you're on an academic scholarship. You're trying to sign a modeling contract right now. My mom was literally like, "You're going to do coke and die." That's
Oh my
literally what's going through
gosh,
her mind. She's like, "You're going to stop
Jenny.
studying. You're going to lose your scholarship." And in my mind, I'm like, "Yes." I'm
For
like,
our
"Let's show
listeners,
them."
Jenny Lannon is the kindest, sweetest. Like I can't picture her saying that.
She is. She is the the sweetest, but she also is a bit she worries. And I do too.
Yeah,
We have my mom and I are emotionally like very similar
yeah.
creatures, especially now that I'm a mom too. But she was scared. I think I also like I I probably was more of a problem child when I was I feel like I probably was the most stressful kid when I was in high school and stuff. Yeah, for a variety of reasons that you can listen to in my episode. Um, but I think that like I really have had good experiences with like I did go and model while
Yeah,
keeping my scholarship. All my grades got better. I paid for my sorority and parts of my tuition and then I like so remember my like parents sharing some of my like photo shoots or ads and stuff with their patients and I just was so smug about it because I'm like,
honestly,
see,
case in
you
point,
didn't want me to do that.
Case in point today, I literally texted you today because I saw that Craig Lannon put reposted a modeling picture of yours. And he's such a proud dad and it was so cute because it wasn't even like, look at my daughter. It was just like, here's Asha modeling as like what was it? Like a very chic Tinkerbell.
That's because it literally, if you go to my profile, you'll see it. But it was like a photo shoot for a fashion school locally that I did recently, and it was kind of fun to like step back into that world for a
Mhm.
moment. Um, but yeah, they're just like so proud of a lot of these things where like in the beginning they were very scared of them. And I think in general, to carry that to like the podcast, I
Mhm.
really am passionate about taking things that people are afraid of, ashamed of, you know, judgmental of and shedding some light on them and showing them that it's like very like all of these things are just human
Yeah.
and there's a way to just live life and go through hard things but still like be very hopeful, in
Yeah.
yourself and driving outcomes into good even through hard things.
Honestly, Ashi, I want to tell you something. When we started Meet Bridget, I feel like I was still in that headspace of being so very shy and insecure and just not really confident in myself. And if I had known then what we know now, or if I could have like looked toward the future, I mean, I'm just so glad we took that leap together that like I reached out to you and then that you were open to me joining you and us becoming a team and building something like this together because you inspire me so much and just even listening to you talk about your middle child experience and, all of it. Um, you really do. You really inspire me to feel so much more confident in myself and to, you are that woman that lifts other women up. And I think I'm proof of that.
That
I'm
means
silly
like the
little like
world to
gremlin
me.
proof, but
That's which is like the actual opposite. I feel like my original impulse when you reached out to me, I was like, in my mind, I was just kind of creating something and putting it out there.
hmm
Um, to just sort of see. I was like, oh, if I make a website, if I start a thing, like it'll become real. Um, and then you reached out and you're like, I want to be a part of this. And I'm like, wait, here's this like beautiful, intelligent, like how does she have the energy for this? Because she was working like night shifts in like the ER at the time. And I'm like, what? She wants to like work on this with me. And it was so motivating for me to be like, if this person who I have so much respect for and really at this point like an obsession with believes in this and like wants this little dream of mine to become something, I better get my shit together and like do it because what a gift. And I've had so many women um who in my network that then meet you through our
Mhm.
Meet Bridget community. And I've had so many women come up to me and be like, you I hope you realize like what a asset and gift of a friend
Oh.
Kishia is to you. And she could like she talks about this community and you in such a like incredible way that it's just so like it's just amazing. Like you're really lucky to have a friend like that. And like you, you know, your words to God's ears. I know. Like I really feel like, and even my mom. Speaking of my like sweet,
Yeah.
love you, mommy. I think she feels this way about you being a friend to me and to Archana, my big
Oh.
sister. That she's just so grateful. She like we all feel like you're just this little angel that has blessed us with
Well,
sisterhood.
no,
So
I think it's such a reciprocal, wonderful relationship, but it truly like this, 150 episodes later, 5 years of podcasting, 10 years of, brand building and programming. Um, you've given me so much confidence. Our friendship gives me so much confidence. Just if we are doing one thing right, I hope it is that we are not just sharing how beautiful our friendship is, but like really it's the backbone of our entire community, right? Just like this love
yeah,
and reverence for one another. The way that I love and revere you and respect you and the way that you inspire me, I think it translates so well into this curiosity about everyone's story, and then it is that virtue cycle of, I'm learning so much from you, I learn so much from the women that we interview, and then I feel so much more confident, not because I know that somebody else has gone through something hard or different than I have, but because we're in league with each other, we're not in competition with each other. Knowing one another and lifting each other up doesn't degrade ourselves, it only makes us stronger. I learn so much more. I learn about different industries and about, how people pivot and different ways to address problems, and how to be creative, and how to tell stories, and how to be vulnerable, and how to mess up on a public platform and be like, you know what? It's okay. We're going to continue
yeah.
recording, and we're going to hit 150 episodes, and then 160, and then 200, and then we're going to take over the world. And it's gonna be so
I
great.
I think one of the my favorite qualities of our friendship is that you and I have this really like fantastical belief in um just like doing good for good's
Yeah.
sake. You know, I really like I think if we could have any impact, both of us are like if I think we both want to have a legacy of just showing people that like friendship, like the value of female friendship, especially like the most honest, you know, like not just having friends that are just like their fair weather friends or whatever,
No.
but like really friendship built on like you and I have seen each other through like the ugly cry, snot all over your face, like
Mhm.
that stuff, you know, and then also through the inspired days and the lazy days and the ups and the downs and the self-doubt and the self-confidence and
Yeah.
um
Or the hard days where
you
you and
know
I don't align and we don't fully
yeah
understand where the other person's coming from yet, but just having the respect to be like, let's let's figure out where we're misfiring here so that
yeah
we continue. I mean, I think
yeah
that's one of the most beautiful parts of the relationship is like, remember in like junior high and high school, like you fight with a friend and it feels like the world's over, or like you're never going to be friends again. And like I think we're proof of concept that like you can have times where you don't get each other, or like, even as in tune as we are, have situations where we're like, well, I'm not really understanding, but like, tell me, let's talk about it. Like, and
Yeah, like we don't have to
yeah.
agree on
Mm-hmm.
something or have the same perspective for us to be able to talk about it and then try to find something that like feels like true for both of
Yeah.
us, like let's find a space like we can. I just think it's so valuable to have friendships with people who you don't agree with everything
Yeah.
about them,
That should be the way it
where
is. Like,
it's so tempting to just like make friends with
mm-hmm.
people that share your your beliefs or your hobbies or like everything, and just like it's easy to be friends with those people, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I really think that like we part of our mission has been to like let's share as many perspectives as possible and have the common thread be that like we all go through difficult things,
Yeah.
and we're works of art
Yeah.
by like showing these threads of like, oh, this person has this quality. It's like it literally came all the way from that little seedling of a childhood experience, and that is so human and irreplaceable.
Yeah. This whole thing has just been amazing. I'm so grateful to you, to this podcast, to our incredible community. I mean, we were reposting just some of the stories that some of our guests and some of our future guests have been sharing, and just to see how many incredible women we get to call part of this community is so utterly humbling and gratifying and joy filling, all of the things. And so it's hard to believe we're here at the end of season 5 at 150 episodes, but it's also the coolest thing ever.
I'm really proud not only of our, values aligning to
Hmm.
make this thing happen, but I'm just so proud of all the women that have joined us and leaned into this really honest, raw, empowering, and like cheerleader of each other version of a female community. So, I mean, I pulled up like our Spotify just to like look at some of the episodes from this season, and I'm like, I can't even like pick out favorites because it's like, oh,
They're so good.
it's such a cool library. I know. Do any like episodes stick out for you of like go-to moments?
Ooh, um, recently, so I will always think of Christine Bullock's episode because she's such an incredible human being. She was in one of our earlier seasons. More recently, your episode with Lisa Hubbard was, I mean, she's just so open and raw and wonderful and honest. So is Moni, so is Brienne. Um, and then I love my conversations with Tracy Piper. She has
Yes.
an incredible story, and she puts all of her art just to canvas and, tells her stories now through vibrant color and purpose.
Yeah.
And um, speaking of color, also Jessica Ruby, who's a celebrity hairstylist. She used to do Lana Del Rey's hair. She's incredible, and she talks about her journey to sobriety, and twice actually, and starting her own salon in New York and then here, dealing with cyberbullying. We really have so many incredible women from all walks of life, literally from every career you can think of. We have models, artists, painters. Yeah, Christine Sadlia is another one. Like, it's such a cool community. It is I literally cannot pick one episode. They're all so different and unique, and each woman brings something so incredible to the table, both in their career and in their personal lives, and then in the way that they share their stories, and they just are honest, with our audience. It's wonderful.
I would love to, as this like closer for season 5, I would love to make an ask of our audience. If you're here today and if this community has meant anything to you, it would mean the world to us if you could engage with us by listening on YouTube, leaving a comment, subscribing, sharing it with a friend,
Yes.
honestly, is the most powerful thing you could do.
Nominating
Specifically,
a
like,
woman, even.
yes, if you have someone where you're like, their story needs to be told, or nominating yourself, like reaching out to us and really showing us that you're there. I feel like Kashia and I have talked about this periodically. It's like we always like check in and we see the audience numbers growing and um, we see people show up at events and all these
Hmm.
things, and it's always like a little bit shocking because it really feels so intimate when we're just creating our episodes. We're just meeting these women one on one, and like we're rolling in our season. So it's like, when we're in season, we're recording every single week, and getting episodes out. Just through my phone, getting episodes out like every single week. That I feel like it's a little dissociative sometimes, where I don't really like remember that people are listening. So if you are here at the conclusion of our season 5 closer, if we could ask you in the spirit of not competing with other women, but encouraging, in these times that can sometimes feel so polarizing and AI stuff coming
Hmm.
in and making everything less human, in the spirit of promoting just this real feminine human connection in person or wherever you are by listening to our community and joining us, um, just helping us out by sharing the podcast, post it to your stories, whatever it is to
Yeah.
get the word out. That means the absolute world to us and keeps us doing what we're doing here for our whole community.
Yes. And we just want to say thank you with our whole hearts for joining in, being here, supporting us, sharing. And yeah, like Asha said, we want to hear from you. Nominate a woman, nominate yourself, share profiles of people who inspire you. We love to see it. We are watching every day. This is a total labor of love. When you message us, it's Asha and I answering. Um, so yeah, you know where to find us at Meet Bridget, anywhere you listen to podcasts, on Instagram and all the socials. Come find us.
Yeah. We also have some fun merch and stuff too, if you're really into the podcast. We have really cute white dad hats coming out, but also like our sweat sets and
Yeah.
everything like that. If you are interested, they're on our website, or you can just DM us to buy them. But yeah, look out for season 6 is already in the works and moving. We're going to be bringing some new energy and new things. Um,
New
we
events.
have a lot
Yeah.
new
If you're
events.
local
There's
to
a lot
Los
more waves.
Angeles or OC, keep an eye out. We are going to be hosting more events, especially in 2026. So we would love to see you there.
Our dream is really to we have really big, big, big dreams for this community, and we have no intention of disappearing. So stick with us, and we will see you in season
You
6.
can't get rid of us.
We'll find you.
Okay, everyone, until next time.
Okay. Bye.
And that's our show. If you liked what you heard today, please like, subscribe to, follow, and share Meet Bridget with your circle. The best way to help our work here is to rate and review our podcast. We're listening and constantly working to build something helpful for you. Catch you next time.